Shush! It's time for The Shelf. Whangarei District Libraries Radio on Beagle Radio. Oh!
Tēnā koutou katoa, no mai whakaronga mai ki The Shelf. He pūnua pau mai I ngā whare puka puka I Whangarei I Beagle Radio 88.1 FM. I pāhere koutou I ngā hōtaka me ohatu ki ngā whare puka puka I YouTube.
Hello everyone and welcome to The Shelf, a podcast for Whangarei District Libraries on Beagle Radio 88.1 FM, and we're streaming online at beagleradio.co.nz. To catch up on episodes you might have missed, subscribe to Whangarei District Libraries YouTube channel. And we're back after a few weeks hiatus, and I'm happy to say I'm joined with Andy for the first time in a few months. He's back in the studio.
Yes, I'm back. If you haven't listened before, my name's Andy. I'm a librarian in Whangarei.
Awesome. And my name's Carly, and we're really happy to get into this episode. We've got a lot planned for you, some deep topics we're going to get into. Yeah,
some challenging ones, which I've looked forward to that, to not only get back in the studio, but to tackle something interesting and challenging.
Some big issues that are relevant to the library as well. So since you've been away from the studio for a couple of months, do you have any books you'd like to recommend that you've been reading in the meantime or recently?
Sure. I'd say my summer reading was Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. What a book. It is an epic story. If you haven't read it, I think it's accessible to everyone. It's a beautifully paced story. It was a real page turner for me. So I recommend Cloud Cuckoo Land.
Cool. And anything else you've been reading recently?
Sure. I picked up a book from the library because I liked the cover and no other reason.
Yeah.
And the book was called Comfort Me with Apples, and it is by...
We'll Google it.
We will Google it. So I'll tell you about the book a little bit. Comfort Me with Apples is a novella by, here it is, Catherynne M. Valente. And it is only 100 pages. It took me 2 days to read, but I say just pick up the book and read it. I'm not going to tell you any more. It's like watching an episode of The Black Mirror. Just get into it. Just check it out.
Oh, that sounds very intriguing. Okay, we'll have to add that to our TBRs, everyone. So I heard you might have a little anecdote about the National Library of New Zealand and finding some cool stuff on their website.
Yes, actually I do. So this is both a story and an endorsement of New Zealand's National Library. If you didn't already know, we have a National Library in Wellington, and a National Library is incredibly important because it's a way to preserve a country's heritage and story. Now I'll tell a story about it. I visited the National Library in Wellington in September last year. I was looking for a very obscure vinyl record that was recorded in New Zealand more than 50 years ago. It is a classical music album by Antonio Lasada. Antonio Lasada was also known as the Maestro. He was a classical guitarist and later a teacher. He came from Spain and lived in both Australia and New Zealand for many years. I think he even studied under Andre Segovia, and that's incredible because he's probably the best guitarist who has ever lived. I mean that. He's better than your favorite heavy metal guitarist. Well, although it's subjective. So, this person, Antonio Lasada, was also my guitar teacher's teacher.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I have an indirect influence from him and Segovia. I'm not that good. So that is my connection to Antonio Lasada. Lasada only recorded one album, and it is so rare it isn't even on YouTube. I would have loved to have played it today, but I can't.
Yeah.
And I don't have the record. However, at the National Library, I was able to listen to a digital copy of his album called Recital. It was very easy to do. I walked into the National Library, which is across the street from the Beehive and Parliament and the Court of Appeals. I asked if I could see one of their records, of course, and I checked in my bag, which you usually do, and the kind librarian there sat me down at a computer with a pair of headphones. I listened to the whole record. It was a delight. So that's my story about the National Library of New Zealand and Antonio Losada, El Maestro.
Oh, that is really cool. It's so special to hear about how libraries, especially things like the National Library, are making these very niche historical things accessible, and so they're not lost to time. And so someone a couple of generations after this guy can come and listen to his music.
I know, and it's a shame he's not he's not on the internet for people to just listen to. But if you go to the National Library and ask to see the record about Antonio Losada, it is there. And the National Library's website will lead you to all of their records. And you can even use our library's interlibrary loan service to get something from the National Library. On Whangarei Library's website, you can fill out a form to request a record from, well, the National Library or any library in the country. It's great.
Yeah, and to see the National Library's website, it's natlib.govt.nz. There's a bunch of collections online as well. There's also a public domain section, so it's definitely worth checking out. Always check out your library websites to see what's available for free online as well. It's really cool to check out all these databases that we have and we need to make use of.
Yeah, and that's my National Library story. Gracias.
Thanks for sharing that, Andy. That's real cool. All right, I think we'll roll into our first heavy-hitting topic of the day. Do you want to maybe introduce it with your definition, Andy?
Yes, we're going to talk about something a bit less lighthearted. It's called the Manosphere, and the reason we're talking about today is because both Carly and I have seen Louis Theroux's documentary on Netflix, and I found it very interesting, but also quite disturbing.
Unsettling.
This world that I knew nothing about because I really haven't been using social media so much. I don't use TikTok or Instagram. So I learned about the Manosphere, and I thought we really ought to talk about this for many reasons. First, I will define it. Pardon my voice, it's a little scratchy today. So this is the definition from Cambridge. Manosphere: websites and internet discussion groups that are concerned with men's interests and rights as opposed to women's, often connected with opposition to feminism or dislike of women. And some parts of the Manosphere have been described as promoting misogynistic worldviews. So I think it's best to consult two sources. Merriam-Webster says, what does Manosphere mean? The Manosphere refers to male-centered websites, internet communities, and other digital media regarded collectively as espousing anti-feminist views, typically involving misogyny and associated with far-right ideologies. Increasingly, the term refers more generally to a broader media environment, especially popular with young men and boys online, criticized as promoting ultra-conservative models of masculinity. So these are the definitions of the Manosphere. Now, let's talk about the reason we're talking about this. I think that this is related to the library, or any library, because it's a matter of digital literacy. It's about information, which is out there. We see a lot of kids and young people watching TikTok and other social media in the library, which, of course, they are allowed to do. And we also feel that this topic relates to online safety.
Yeah, most definitely. And we know that in New Zealand there's a digital divide, which usually means like the disconnect between people that have access and accessibility of the internet and those that don't. But part of that divide is also understanding and having critical thinking when using the internet and being able to assess information is real and accurate, things like that, which we'll get into later, but it sort of blends into the Manosphere topic we're about to talk into.
That's right. And the documentary, maybe I should explain what happens in the documentary. Louis Theroux is a documentary maker, and he interviews several influencers who are connected with this Manosphere. And, well, if I could describe the personalities of the people he interviews, they're generally quite aggressive. They're very self-aggrandizing. They talk about how successful they are with their money and with women, and they love to watch themselves exercise.
They do. Kind of gym bros, or they like to accessorize with things like Rolex to signify their wealth and success, things like that.
And typically they put these videos of themselves on TikTok or Instagram, so they consider themselves influencers.
Yeah.
Which isn't such a new topic anymore. So Louis Theroux interviews them, and it gets awkward quickly.
Yeah, and he's a great documentarian. I've been such a fan of Louis Theroux for many years. I'm sure you probably have been too as well.
Yep.
But yeah, worth checking out if you have access to Netflix, but also there's lots of clips online. You can watch a lot of this movie on YouTube through the clips that are promos for this, so you don't have to subscribe just to see it, but it's worth a watch if you have access to it. It is quite shocking.
Yes, it is. The behavior you see is, basically everything I was told when I was a young boy not to do.
Yeah, and it's very much about the men in the thick of it, in the thick of the Manosphere. We were not going to say their names because they don't need it. And the effect that it has on boys, not so much on women, but that could be its own documentary. I feel like.
And well, there is another Netflix series that is about the effects on women. It's called Adolescence.
Yes.
And it's a great show in its own right.
Yeah, won all the awards, didn't it, last year? Was it last year?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
But Carly, you've done some research about the harm that this that this network causes.
Okay, yeah, and I'll read out a little bit about what I've been researching about the harm of the Manosphere. So it does negatively impact men and women, boys and girls. It weaponizes the power of social media and often AI to profit off their young male audiences at the expense of women in general. It encourages a parasocial relationship between the Manosphere personalities, which, by the way, their personalities are highly curated and inauthentic, and the boys that are watching. The biggest impact on these boys, who are potentially as young as maybe like 10, some of them aren't even teenagers, but they're often in their teenage years, is that it pushes them to buy their products. So Louis goes into a bit of detail about how they're kind of grifters. Well, they are grifters.
Yes.
They're not necessarily believing all they're selling, but the end goal is the money.
One of them even says so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So Manosphere influences grifters who use offensive and extreme rhetoric purposefully and tactfully to achieve an end goal of achieving wealth and probably fame. They're signaling to the base, like, psychological aspects of young men whose brains are still developing, they're still going through puberty, things like that. So it's a real critical time for parents to nip this in the bud, which is a lot of the reason we wanted to talk about this today, because New Zealand's not immune to this phenomenon. I did find that our government has released an inquiry into the harm young New Zealanders encounter online, which identifies some risks that our kids face online. The New Zealand Security and Intelligence Service even quoted, "Young and vulnerable people in New Zealand are particularly at risk of radicalisation, especially while online." So it's a real thing that we should take seriously. Internet New Zealand has also released a report on New Zealand's insights to online use, which is available on their website. It looks at the impact of online harm, stating that 15% of New Zealanders have experienced harm or harassment online. Kiwis spend on average 3 hours a day on the internet, sometimes much more than that. I'm kind of embarrassed at my phone for a time that it tells me every day that I've been online for this amount of hours. Kiwis, so they spend 3 hours a day on the internet, and less than 1/3 of people know where to report harmful content. So for your information, reaching out to the police and to NetSafe is always a good idea. They will have resources to help you deal with online abuse, harassment, etc. So this is all to demonstrate our context in New Zealand. There's a book called The New Age of Sexism by Laura Bates. It explains how women have a different experience of the internet than men, which is women we already would know to be true. Sometimes walking down the street is a different experience that women have than men. Globally, 38% of women who spend time online have had personal experience with online violence or abuse. 85% of women globally have witnessed it. The effect manifests in trauma or hurt, but also in how women adapt and use coping mechanisms to protect themselves, which includes self-censoring, masking, withdrawing or hiding themselves and their identity online. So, it affects both boys and girls. So it's a big problem that we've got to,
And that cycles back to the reason why we're talking about this, because it relates to sus information on the internet. And it sounds sometimes like we're saying, hey, parents, don't let your kids listen to rock and roll. This isn't like that. We have legitimate concerns. Yeah. And I have written down a list of some of the unique slang of the Manosphere that maybe can alert internet users to the kind of content they're reading, but also parents if you hear your children talking like this. So I made a list. One is pickup art. That word's been around for a little while, but I feel it's used prominently in this in the Manosphere. Another is body count. Soy boy, cuck, alpha male, and beta male, red pill, snowflake, the game, which is a book, and the Matrix, which refers to the movie, but also this supposed conspiracy. I'll just go over 2 of them because we could talk all day about what these words mean. Red pill, it's also sometimes used as an emoji on social media. Red pill is a reference to The Matrix, if you've seen the movie, of course. And in the movie, a character chooses to take a red pill so that he can see the real world. And in the movie, the real world is that humanity is controlled by machines. Everybody's seen it. But in the Manosphere, taking the red pill means you are waking up to the supposed truth that society is oppressive to men. And I have 2 things to say about that. 1, read a history book. And 2, if part of your very serious worldview is quoting a science fiction movie, then you do not live in the real world. Your red pill is your delusion.
I did find that there are emojis that can be sort of coded in this context. Like, out of context, these could be used normally and they don't seem like anything significant, but in this context of the Manosphere, there's like the red circle is the red pill, a snake is like a weak feminist woke man, a muscle arm is the gym bro dominant man, and the crown is like men are king kind of thing. So those are things to sort of keep in the back of your mind to look out for.
Oh, emojis. Just use your words. The other term is snowflake, and
yes.
I hear politicians use the word snowflake. It's usually not a good sign. Also, news anchors. Snowflake is used to mean a fragile person. It is a reference to Fight Club, both the book and the movie. Snowflake, it demonstrates how people who use this word did not actually understand the movie Fight Club. So I'm going to quote the movie Fight Club. This is from the movie, not the book. I couldn't get access to the book. Here's the quote by Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt. "Listen up, maggots. You are not special. You are not a beautiful or unique snowflake. You are the same decaying organic matter as everything else." So if you're familiar with literature, and film is literature, the word snowflake here is being used by the movie's villain. So pay attention to point of view in the literature you consume.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you hear snowflake coming out of the mouth of a politician, it generally means they're trying to be purposefully obnoxious.
Or like triggering an audience that,
Yeah.
on purpose. I'll just quickly say that also on this, I found an esafety.gov.au, so the eSafety Commissioner of Australia had this really cool breakdown on the website that I would recommend looking at. So it talks you through the Manosphere and what to look out for, how it manifests, and recommendations for parents when dealing with that. So I'll just quickly say that it shows up in often short form video platforms, anonymous online forums that uses this coded language we've been talking about, chat and live streams, and meme and gaming subcultures as well. So it often starts with self-improvement tips, how to make money, dating advice, fitness tips, and it morphs into like the strict gender role and harmful talk of women and girls. And memes specifically can be used to signal and like promote these hateful ideas in sort of an ironic way. So that's something and how it manifests itself. So parents should, the Australian government recommends, foster strong relationships with their children so the kids don't look for validation elsewhere.
Yeah.
And these false role models. You should show an interest in what your kids are doing online. Keep the communication open, but if there's anything you're worried about, don't start with confrontation. Start with curiosity and communication, and talk them around and ask them questions so they can sort of work their way around and use their critical thinking skills and come to the realization themselves that this isn't right, this language isn't right, and what they're looking at is harmful. So, that's their recommendation. So I'll leave it there, but that's on esafety.gov.au.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very detailed site. It can tell you way more than I can with the time given. But I want to refer you to some books in our collection on the subject. Disclaimer, there aren't many. It's a very new topic. And I strongly recommend that you consult books and credible news articles about the Manosphere rather than going to YouTube or TikTok, because that'll lead you to the rabbit hole. The first one, I actually brought it with me in the studio because somehow that helps me talk. It's called Lost Boys, A Personal Journey Through the Manosphere by James Bloodwoth. This book goes way deeper than we are able to today. I think it's very interesting. I was able to read about a third of it. And it talks about boot camps for pickup artists, online anger and misogyny, Gamergate, and adherence to films such as The Matrix or Fight Club, which we went over earlier. I would like to read a quote. You mentioned online gaming communities, and Gamergate refers to one of those, and I missed this news story years ago, but I got to read about it in this book. Anyway, here's the quote. Gamergate contained in embryo some of the features of an ascendant right-wing populism. This included an exaggerated anxiety about political correctness, later redefined as woke. Just turning the page. A style of discourse meant to disorient rather than persuade, and the laundering of old hatreds under the guise of irony and humor. So, my favorite part of this quote, because I see it in politics all the time, a style of discourse meant to disorient rather than persuade. Have you ever been in an argument with somebody who thinks they've won, but actually they're just so off the charts you don't know how to respond? Yeah.
Yep. I have.
I have too. So this book, Lost Boys.
Looks like a brand new book, actually.
It is, actually. Our shelf colleague, LJ, was kind enough to catalog it so I could read it first.
It's good to have those connections.
So when you search for this book in the catalog, make sure it's the correct one. We've got another one called The Lost Boy.
Oh.
It's different. It's about Peter Pan. So The Lost Boys, there's no The Lost Boys, A Personal Journey Through the Manosphere. There's one more book that it's on my desk, and it's called Clown World. And it's about a certain influencer who ended up in a Romanian jail.
Oh, yeah.
If you know, you know. I didn't get time to read it, but it's about the same world. The book's called Clown World. Mm-hmm. I'd like to also refer you to some news articles that we read about the subject. The cover of last week's Canvas had a picture of Louis Theroux, and it's about the documentary. Also, you can search Manosphere under RNZ, just find relevant articles. Go for the latest, but this topic's been around for a couple of years, so, a 2-year-old article might do. Here's what I think parents can do. Help kids understand that there are people on the internet that prey on impressionable young people, obviously. But this time it's targeting very young people. And it's like how my parents told me not to talk to strangers or don't give money to people who promise you riches. So a combo of teaching about stranger danger and avoid being scammed online. So here's some tips. Never, ever send money to a live streamer. Ignore financial advice from influencers. It's going to be dubious at best. Don't pay for life advice or some alpha male boot camp. And don't pay for some course that will help you man up. So remember the slang words that I mentioned earlier. If you see them in a video or article, chances are that's the path you're going down. So beware any influencer who uses these words. They aren't trying to help you. They only want to enrich themselves.
Yeah.
I think this is a perfect opportunity to very quickly go over information literacy, the ability to basically discern fact from fiction in any source of information.
Yeah, that'll be a good segue, and that's something we're very interested in talking about as a library as well. So, could we go through how to assess? I
have a chart here. There's a simple formula that you can use to evaluate content. That's books, online articles, blogs, videos, etc. And it's called the CRAP test. That's C-R-A-A-P. C stands for currency. So what's the timeliness of the information? Was it published a year ago, but people think it's about something that happened yesterday? Yep. The latest is best. Relevance. Does this information actually fit what you are looking for? Authority. What is the source of the information? Is this some kind of lifestyle guru, or is it a doctor? Accuracy. Reliability and correctness of the information. So this can get tricky. So make sure information is backed up by credible sources. And then purpose, which I think is a very important part of the CRAP test in this conversation about the Manosphere. The purpose, the reason the information exists. What are they trying to get out of you? Who benefits?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this might also be a good time to talk about AI, specifically AI overview, because as librarians, we help people on the computers every day, and oftentimes people are looking at the AI overview, and that's where they get their information from. So, now Google has this overview function. So if you search anything, the top result is this summary that Google AI pulls from their page of results. And we found it ironic when we just thought, maybe we'll look up what Google AI Overview thinks about the issues of Google AI Overview. So I might just read some of it out to you today. And this is what AI itself says about maybe the problems that that's involved in this.
Yeah.
So Google AI overviews have faced significant criticism and technical issues since their launch, with reports indicating they can be confidently wrong while presenting fabricated or inaccurate information as fact at the top of the search results. And I think the key is that, like, it's at the top. You think it's the top result. Yeah.
Just to clarify, this is what the AI said about itself.
Yeah. So it's very ironic.
Wow. Okay.
Key issues include the generation of dangerous advice, poor understanding of context, and this is what I've highlighted: the inability to distinguish between authoritative sources and satire or social media rumors, etc. So just like Andy was talking about the crap test, Google AI and other AI forms can't really tell the difference between, say, pulling something from a news site or pulling something from a university website or a book versus pulling information from social media, a Facebook post, or Reddit. Often I see things are pulled from Reddit on that overview. So major issues and examples that AI has found within itself is that it can give dangerous and health and safety advice. And to link that to a real life context, last week there was a RNZ article, Timaru Cafe inundated with calls after AI tool lists phone number for hospital. So people were calling accidentally a coffee lounge in Timaru when they were actually trying to contact a radiation centre and search for a Timaru hospital and things like that. So that's an example of how it's offered unsafe or just inaccurate information. It could be confidently wrong, and these there's a key word for this: hallucinations. So AI hallucinations. So they present inaccuracies with high confidence. So that's what a hallucination is when they're talking about it. And it could source a misinterpretation or satire as it doesn't know nuance, doesn't know humour, and it could give you outdated information. It could be manipulated or gamed, so it's offering you spam, and it has a lack of transparency and accountability. The decision-making process for these models is often opaque, making it difficult to understand why they make certain mistakes. So I thought, and I did notice that the overview does give you a couple of clickable links where they found this information in tiny little icons, but the key is not to take it all at face value. Like Andy said, test your information. If you're searching for accurate information, maybe search multiple sites like Andy did with the definitions of the Manosphere earlier. So just the key is not to take it at face value just because it's the easiest thing to look at the top result. Maybe dig a little deeper and find authentic information.
Yeah, it's a bit like understanding your own limitations when you're seeking information or trying to teach somebody else. I don't think AI is aware of its limitations, nor would it admit it, because it does not have an ethical code it follows. Not that I know of. I looked up the definition of a word when I was reading a book, just because I wanted to fully understand. And the AI response was just a bunch of numbers. Utter nonsense.
Yeah.
If I scrolled further, I'll find the answer to that one.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I think that's probably all we have to say about those two very big topics.
Yes, definitely. And, check out those books in our collection. If you search Manosphere in a general word search in the library's catalog, you can find more. Like I said earlier, it is a new topic, but, patience.
Yeah. And if you want help trying to authenticate something online, you want a second opinion on whether it's accurate or if it's spam or something like that, libraries are always happy to help. So you're welcome to come and chat to us for a second opinion.
I guess just to to say once again, this book, Lost Boys by James Bloodwoth, is very informative. I'm going to return it to the library today, so you should place a hold on it from our catalog and check it out.
Cool. All right. Well, last time we were on the show, we played a big clip from the Heritage Talk, the most recent one with author Lauren Roche. So this was her Q&A with our Heritage librarian Monique. Shout out to her. And this was like a promotion for her new book, Julia Eichardt. So that happened back in March. And it was a successful event. We thought we'd play part 2 of the Q&A with you here today. And once it's done, we'll probably pop it up on YouTube in its own right. But for now, we'll play the second clip.
All right.
So religion was a really big issue back then too. Now Albert Eichardt had been raised as a Catholic, but because he was a businessman in a new community, he wanted to be with the other businessmen as a Mason. So the Freemasons, it was kind of a social and business grouping of men. But if you were a Freemason, you couldn't be buried as a Catholic, because Freemasonry was seen as a secret society and was the antithesis of what Catholicism stood for, apparently. So Albert converted to Anglicanism. So when he died, he was buried with his brothers in the Anglican section of the cemetery. Julia was buried in the Catholic section of the community, because Julia was Catholic and never gave up her faith. So Julia's grave is next, and they now reside probably about 30 feet from each other. So they're not in the same room, but they're in the same house. And it's probably a kind of happy way to be. Yeah, so religion was a really big deal. One of the things that was reported in the newspapers as Julia lay dying. Now Julia died from a traumatic brain injury. If you're ever at Eichardt's hotel, you can see that they've got very, very thick window slabs made of stone. And one day when she was 54, it was Good Friday, she was just walking down the steps from her hotel to go up to the grave to visit Albert. And she tripped on a piece of wood that had been left by a builder. She took 15 days to die, and she died in her hotel. But one of the things that was reported in the newspapers, that even though she was a proud Catholic woman, even the Methodists and Presbyterians said prayers for her. All of the businesses in town closed down. People told each other to hush in the streets. Don't disturb Mrs. Eichardt. One of the things that I found researching this book, which was to me the most amazing thing, was those days for traumatic brain injury, there were neurosurgeons. Okay, you had chloroform and you could knock people out. You had saws, you can open their skulls and take clots off their brain, but there weren't any antibiotics because they didn't come until 1927. And there wasn't the understanding of the germ theory of disease, not like we have it now. So you didn't really have to wash your hands that much if you were a surgeon or a nurse. And many, many people who had these operations died from infection if they didn't die from shock. So you had a specialist neurosurgeon from Dunedin Hospital came up to see Julia Eichardt as she was dying and decided it was too late to do an operation on her brain. I thought they were very brave, the doctors then and the patients. You know, malaria means bad air. People believed that you got sick because the air that you breathed was bad. And it was bad because there was bad stuff in the swamps and there was bad smells and that'd all make you sick. And there was nothing that could fix it. So things are a little better these days.
We have 5 copies of your book in the library, and we have about 15 holds on them. And wow. I had to get my own copy because I couldn't get one out of the library. When I was doing 7th form history, our teacher asked us if we want to do English history or we wanted to do New Zealand history, and we all unanimously said English history. And I think that there seems to me a transition over time where we seem to be growing in our interest of our own history, and I think we now seem to be looking at that earlier colonial, the more sort of difficult or nuanced part of our history.
Yeah.
Is that do you think that's some of the popularity behind your book?
I think it is. I think that we're starting to look at our history a little closer and examine even the uncomfortable bits. And there are some uncomfortable bits. First, I didn't want the word colonial to go on the cover of the book because that's got such connections with colonisation, and that is really upsetting to many people. I think reading the book, most of the people who came to New Zealand came here because they had awful lives where they were. They had no hope for themselves and their kids, and they wanted to belong to a place where there was the chance for a future. Most of the people who came here weren't horrible people. You know, there were one or two ratbacks. So I think that we're starting to wrestle a bit with that stuff and be able to sit with it a bit more. And it's easier to read history when it's written as a novel, I think. You know, it's much easier. When we had coffee, you asked about where I got a lot of the information from for the book. Because Julia actually left no letters, she left no diaries. When she and Albert got married, there was 2 sentences in the newspaper. Other people getting married around that time, you got to know what the bridesmaids wore, and that the bride had a lovely little bouquet with bits of gorse in it, flowering gorse. It was just so precious then. There was nothing for Julia and Albert. There's nothing in the archives at the hotel. There were no floor plans. There was nothing. So to find out all I could about her, I went into Papers Past. And if you don't know that, it's a National Library treasure where you can go and put someone's name in and some dates and the area in which you're interested, and they will bring out all the newspaper cuttings that mention that person. There was some fantastic stuff. You had to dig a little deep. But I think the most interesting place where I found information was births, deaths and marriages. If someone's been dead for 100 years, for $25 you can get their marriage certificate, their birth certificate, their death certificate. And these things had information that you couldn't find anywhere else. Julia's marriage certificate tells you that she's been in New Zealand for X many years. I think it was 12 years. We couldn't find her arrival anywhere. Went through all of the archives, because I think at the time she arrived in New Zealand, about 14,000 people per week were going through Dunedin. They're all muddied and dispersing, and they just didn't keep up with the paperwork. Also, there was a flood, and archives were destroyed. So we found out then the year that she had arrived in New Zealand. The people who signed her marriage certificate as witnesses were the doctor who later signed her death certificate, Dr. James Douglas, and her stepsister, Bessie Ryan. So we knew that Julia's family had come to New Zealand in time to witness her getting married. The death certificates have how many children did this person have when they died, what ages were the children, what sexes were they, where was the person born, what was their occupation, what was their father's occupation, and all that stuff, and little squiggly handwriting is available if you ever want to check out your own family history, or you're just being nosy. You can, for $25.
And just to add to that, we have a genealogy section at the library, so there's computers you can use. You've got free access to platforms like Ancestry and Find My Past, and you also, most importantly, have access to the most amazing genealogy volunteers who are really skilled and experienced at helping to track down the story. So if you're interested in finding your own past, then I recommend you drop in and check it out.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you go on Papers Past, if you've got a Real Me ID, the papers have been photographed. So you've got photographs of the actual newsprint as it appeared, and then a computer has translated it. And the computers make awful mistakes. You know, they see a little blotch on the paper and they think it's a funny letter and they try and put it in. But you can edit that. So if you go into Papers Past, look at what you want, and if you see it has mistakes, you can go through and edit it for the next person who's going to read or research it. And it's a way of feeling like you're giving back. I like doing it. But you've got to, every 5 minutes, save it, otherwise everything you've done disappears.
Did you find it tricky writing about people who, whose descendants are alive and well now?
Yeah, I did. Julia and Albert had no children, and we don't know why. One or other of them, or both of them, must have had a fertility issue. So they had no kids. But Julia's brothers and sisters had kids, and I was in contact with some of them as I was writing the book. There's one point in the book about Julia where she's dying and she's thinking about all the people that she's known, and she makes a critical comment. I made a critical comment about William Rees, and all the comment was William Rees had this beautiful place. It was wonderful, and then all the miners came, and the life that he thought he was going to have was destroyed. So he reimagined his life, and he started hauling goods from Kingston through to Queenstown on his boat. And sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning there'd be 200 miners waiting there to get from him flour or mutton or tobacco or sugar. And I imagined at 2 in the morning this man who's being dragged out of his bed by these miners who are angry because they're not getting enough might just hold on to that flour just a second too long, because he's had enough and he's not a saint. And I thought, he's got descendants and they're going to hate it. Yeah. But I decided to leave it because I think he's one of the people in Queenstown history who's been sanctified. And I think if my life had been upturned the way his had, I'd have been pissy and I would have held on to that flower a little bit too long too. So yeah, there is a problem of writing about people whose descendants are still alive. The next book that I'm writing is about, I think, what's our next thing? It's about Rebecca Bond. And this was called the Empire Hotel when she and her husband George opened it. Now, Rebecca had 8 children, I think. I sometimes get it mixed up with Julia. When she died, she owned property still in Cardrona and in Queenstown. And in about 1980, the council realised that these bits of landholding hadn't had rates paid on them for years. So they set out to find Rebecca's descendants to say, wow, have we got a nice little piece of land for you and a really big rates bill. So yeah, that's my next book. And so she does still have descendants, but they're scattered, and it took a team of lawyers quite a long time to find them. One still lives in Waipukaro, I think. So there were all sorts of stories about her children, about how one had become a nun and 3 of them hadn't had kids because they were probably gay, and but it turns out that they're still around, and I'm going to be writing about their ancestors, so I'll do my best to play nice. And the next book that I'm doing is about this man called Bendix Hellenstein. And his descendants approached me when we were releasing Julia's book. So this is written with the cooperation and support of his descendants. So that book's going to be out in 2028. The Rebecca book's going to be out in 2027. I almost screwed up the writing of the Bendix book, because we did this thing at Eichardt's Hotel to release the Julia book. And there was a man sitting there who put his hand up, who asked some questions and identified himself as Bendix Hellenstein's great-grandson. And he was sitting next to a woman, and I was really busy, and my contact lenses weren't working properly, and I was a bit fuddled. Anyway, he sent me a text, and I said, "Oh, look, it was so lovely to meet you, and I'm so delighted you brought your mother with you to the thing." And it was his wife, of course, it was his wife. So I thought that I had soured that relationship before it even started. But fortunately, they were very forgiving.
You are listening to The Shelf, a radio show for Whangarei District Libraries on Beagle Radio 88.1 FM, and that was author Lauren Roche.
Cool. Just to end our show, we're going to go through some upcoming events at the library. So maybe I'll kick it off with preschool fun times, because I took fun time today and had a fun time.
Good.
It's in the name. So this is started back up again for term 2. So this happens during term time. It's a chance for preschoolers and homeschool children to come in for stories, rhyme, music and movement. The sessions are held weekly during school term, and it's free. All kids just must be accompanied by an adult. And this happens at Tikipunga Library on Tuesdays, 10 a.m, and at Whangarei Central Library, Wednesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. till about roughly 10:45-ish. So that's fun times. Come along tomorrow or next week.
And we will also have creative coloring in for grown-ups. And you can rediscover the relaxing and creative pastime of coloring in.
Oh, cool. What days are they on?
That is Tuesday afternoons, and it's in the May Bain Room at Central Library.
Cool. We also have this really cool initiative called Between the Lines. Book sparked chat over a cup of tea. The next date is Monday the 4th of May, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So this is a shared reading route for people with memory loss or dementia to allow them to continue reading and enjoying books. This activity promotes well-being and enhances their language skills. So reading together and speaking about books helps people connect with their memories and fostering community and reduces isolation. So it's a really, really cool initiative. This happens fortnightly, every second Monday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. excluding public holidays, and it happens in association with Dementia Te Tai Tokerau. So that's also free, but you just got to register online through our website.
And on the same day, on 4th of May, there will be a book club at Tikipunga. And let's get the exact time. That is at 11 a.m., 4th of May. And you just want to, if you are interested in taking part in this book club, you have to register for the waiting list. It is popular. And you can do that by emailing whglibrary@wdc.govt.nz. Just write your name and daytime phone number to register.
Cool. Same day as that, there's also an afternoon book club at Whangarei Central Library, I believe, in the May Bain Room, yes. So this is a great way to meet people, expand your reading taste, and learn more about what we have to offer at your library. This afternoon book club meets on the first Monday of each month, except when it is a public holiday again. So tea, coffee, and nibbles are provided. And to register, you've got to email your name and daytime phone number to the same address Andy listed there, whglibrary@wdc.govt.nz, or visit one of your libraries to leave your contact details, and our fiction librarian will get back to you. So the next date, again, is Monday 4th of May, 1 p.m. till 3 p.m.
And if you find computers or your other devices to be very tricky, you can come to Drop-In Tech Help on the 5th of May at 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. So if you need some assistance with your device, you can spend up to 30 minutes with a librarian or volunteer coach who can help you with such things. And we can talk about just using your smartphone, tablet, laptop, or library services, access to ebooks, for example, tips about searching the internet, and one that I think is very important, scams. Do you have really suspicious texts saying that they're from the New Zealand police? Show a librarian and we'll tell you it's a scam.
Cool. What I like about the drop-in tech sessions also is that it's supported by the CAB, and they're so onto it and they're amazing and they help us so much with the drop-in sessions. So that's just a little shout out to them. On Tuesday, 5th of May, same day, there's the Whangarei Library 3:30 Flash Writers Group at 11 o'clock till about 12:30 p.m. So this is for if you're interested in writing, sharing, and generally having fun with flash and microfiction. This is the place to be. So they meet on the first Tuesday of each month from 11 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. For newcomers to flash fiction, a second group has started on the third Thursday of each month, 3:30 till 5 p.m. So each meeting consists of readings, constructive critique, and general discussions on opportunities for submitting to local and international flash fiction competitions and publications. This is best suited for adults, and entry is free. So to join, there's a link on our website, or you can email Whangarei Library 3.30flash@gmail.com. And yeah, so the next meetings are on Tuesday 5th of May and Thursday 21st of May. So there you go.
And I say about that, if you're interested in being a writer, just try it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
All
looks
right.
like we've got a lot going on. Oh, I've been driving the mobile library lately. So.
Oh, how's that going?
Oh, it's good. It's a very large vehicle, though.
Yeah, takes some getting used to.
Yes, definitely. Helps to be careful. But I visited a lot of different communities around town in the countryside. I love going to daycares because the kids just think the mobile library is so cool because it's a big vehicle and it's got wheels. And
if you go inside, sometimes there's disco lights on the bus. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we can do that. And all the books are, on near the floors where they can see them.
Yeah,
they're always so excited, jumping around, spinning in circles.
Cool. If you were interested in seeing where the mobile library gets off to each day, there's information on our website about that. See if it's coming to your neck of the woods anytime soon, or to your kids' school, etc. Yeah.
Yep, you might see me.
Yeah, you might see Andy the mobile librarian.
Yep, I should wear a little badge.
Yeah. The mobile library crew is so cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone. We covered a lot today, and I'm glad we got to cover every single topic, no matter how difficult.
Yeah, that was really cool. If you have any suggestions on what we could talk about in the future, if you want to get involved with the shelf somehow, reach out to us, give us feedback. You can do so by emailing the library, reaching out to us on our social media. Do follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Yeah, and if you really love the shelf, you want to keep us going, send your feedback to the library. It helps us. Totes. All right, so we'll see you at the library next time, everyone. Ka kite. Ka kite.